Well, we go this way. How's everyone doing? What's for lunch? What's for lunch? You gotta say it louder. Yam? I don't know because I didn't eat. So someone save me a box so I can have lunch. Hi, my name is Brian Douglas. I go by B Dougie on the internet, and I'm coming all the way from San Francisco, California, and super honored to be here in Nigeria with y'all. So I'm going to be talking about the secret sauce, which is open source. So I learned how to code back in 2013, basically 10 years ago. And this is an email of my first time doing any open source contribution ever in 2015. My background is I got a finance degree, could not get a job, so I ended up going into sales. And while in sales, I learned how to code and had no idea how to use GitHub issues, how to use pull requests. So what I did is I had a problem where I had to build a tool on top of Slack. So Slack was very new, and I wanted to auto-invite people to Slack. And the way I found this is I Googled and found it on GitHub, but I couldn't get it to work. So what I did is I emailed the maintainer. So on GitHub, anybody use GitHub? Raise your hand. You got a GitHub profile? Just some of you? Okay. Sign up to GitHub. Well, on GitHub, the maintainer will have their email right there on their profile. So because I didn't know how to use GitHub issues, I emailed them and said, hey, I can't use your thing. Can you respond? And to my surprise, they responded back within 2 days while they were traveling through Thailand. I feel like I have a lot of life experience now, but at that time, I didn't know digital nomad was a thing. This individual was specifically traveling through Asia to follow a K-pop band, and I didn't know what K-pop was at the time. But I bring this up because the opportunity to do open source is there for all of you. And the benefit of us being connected through the internet gives us opportunity to connect through people who make code. So this entire keynote is just going to be a series of stupid questions that I asked and got an answer to. So you guys heard the saying, if there's no such thing as a stupid question? They say that to be nice. There are definitely stupid questions. I asked all of them, and I was not embarrassed to ask stupid questions and get answers. So I appreciate if anybody wants to come talk to me, ask a question you always wanted the answer to, I will tell you. I might actually cover it in this talk. So that experience of me doing open source, it got me thinking. Who's ever heard of the rapper Gucci Mane? Is that all familiar? He's the godfather of trap music. So it's all modern hip-hop, comes out of Atlanta. And Gucci Mane has this quote, if you don't got sauce, then you lost. But the sauce, it's hard to describe what the sauce is. But when you understand that you're only one email away from a new job or a new mentorship or $1,000 in your bank account, that's the sauce. This understanding there's an opportunity for people to know who you are. There's another thing I use all the time. It's not about who you know. It's about who knows you. And the benefit is I don't know any of you, so you have an opportunity to let me know who you are after. Also, the shout out, if anybody's using hashtag OSCAFest 2023, if you could take a picture of me and put it up on Twitter, you're my PR. I need you to be my public relations. So if you can take a picture, hashtag, find me on Twitter. On every one of these slides, my handle is like on the bottom right. Take a picture of me so that people know I'm here. Excellent. So I've been working on this project since 2017 called Open Sauce. Back in September of last year, I quit my job to work on it full time. And the whole value of what Gucci Mane was talking about, if you don't got sauce and you lost, I wanted to give that same secret sauce to everyone who wanted to have a piece of it. And that's what we're working on at Open Sauce. So this is me. I'm the Beyonce of open source. That is also my handle if you wanted to find it to tweet it as well. Who knows Beyonce? Just a couple of you? I actually had to call the president yesterday because I talked to a Nigerian who said they didn't like Beyonce. I was like, President Biden, please point the nukes away. It's okay. They're going to figure it out. They're going to learn to love Beyonce. But if you don't know Beyonce, you don't know Gucci Mane, you probably know this guy. Yeah, so I'm like the burner boy of Dougie of open source. So that you guys understand? But what I like to do is I like to put myself out there so that other people can find me and learn the secret sauce. So go back to Beyonce. Beyonce About 14 years ago, Beyonce started a mentorship program where she was bringing up-and-coming new artists under her wing. Now, the person in the middle is Beyonce, but does anybody know the people on the side? You do, exactly. So Beyonce mentored The Little Mermaid. But I bring this up because it's not, everyone who's been on the stage so far, like Sultan, Prosper, all the folks I know from the internet, and I just met this week for the first time, those are folks that are actively bringing up more Africans into the fold and sharing the secret sauce. And it's your job to now find other people. There's a saying I heard from someone else. If you go up in the elevator, you get the opportunity to go up in the elevator, you have to make sure the elevator goes back down for the next person. And that's what I constantly always do. So this is a quote that you can attribute to me. If you want to be an advocate, if you want to teach the secret sauce, you have to build other people up that can also teach the secret sauce. So I spent about 5 years working at this small company. It's a small little company inside of Microsoft called GitHub. And I led developer relations there. And amazing opportunity, got to engage with lots of folks across the world. This week is now my 6th continent that I've been on, thanks to developer relations. So I got one more to go. You can probably guess which one it is, too. But when I worked at GitHub, I learned there's a lot of history. And GitHub spent this time trying to find, because back when I joined, we had about 100 black individuals who worked at GitHub. GitHub at the time was about 1,000 people. So, no, actually not 1,000 people, it was about 2,500. So about 3% of the entire company was black, which is where I come from, I'm a minority. When I come to this country, we're the majority. So I appreciate that. I love this country. But in the United States, we have a history of STEM professionals that have really broken barriers and made a really big name for themselves. So we don't have to go through all these folks, but these are all folks in science and technology through the last 100 years, actually 250 years. And GitHub wanted to do something big, which is to build representation within our product. And the way we did that is we chose one individual, which is Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker, he actually built Washington, D.C. He built the entire civil plan for Washington, D.C. He was also a scientist and a mathematician and a farmer, and he made a huge shift in how people looked at the black American population with this one guy. The challenge is most people don't know who he is. I went to school in the US, but still people don't know who he is. So what we did is we actually crafted, because the Octocat is the representation of all developers, and we crafted, through our amazing illustrators, Benjamin Banneker, and it became our first Black-to-Cat. And what I was telling you, when I joined GitHub, we had the opportunity to build an entire employee resource group called the Black-to-Cats. So I've actually put some stickers over at the Microsoft booth. They might have some still. But I bring this up because in 2019, we all came together in Washington, D.C., the same place, and the Benjamin Banneker built his reputation. We met in a room which was called the Benjamin Banneker Room in Washington, D.C., in a hotel. And we got together and we did planning on how we can make impact using GitHub across the world. And there's a series of data that comes out every year called the Octoverse. And in 2019, these were all the emerging companies doing open source in 2019. Any countries look familiar to you? Yeah, Nigeria was number 4. So what we did is we built, as the Black-to-Cats, no one told us to do this. We built a program to build a reproducible, scalable hackathon that we could take in country to teach open source to the masses. Because the thing that you got to remember, I'll mention this multiple times, open source is the secret sauce. So we built this hackathon, and we called it Floss and Code. So we've already talked enough about what floss means. You know, free as in Libre, open source software, whether you put the L in there or not, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's a secret sauce. So there's a quote with Martin Luther King, which I'll paraphrase it, but this is it. Martin Luther King, MLK, he's also a big figure in American culture, black American culture. And there's a saying about just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But it's cruel to say pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you have no boots. Not everybody in this world has boots to pull up. And the opportunity that we were trying to do is go build boots for folks to put on. So we built this little organization called Floss and Code inside of GitHub. And we took it to the hometown of Gucci Mane, actually. Gucci Mane, actually, he has an album called East Atlanta Santa. And I bring this up because Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta is the capital of Georgia. There's a lot of black population in Georgia. You could actually get a direct flight from Atlanta to Lagos because there's so many Nigerians that live in Atlanta. It's a very, very common place to go to school and to raise a family. But we chose East Atlanta because of the black population. So during that time, every summer, all students from HBCUs, they come back to Atlanta, and they just basically just figure out what they're going to do all summer. So what we did is we hosted a hackathon or a hack day specifically for that population, no students, to teach them open source. And the reason, and there's a point I'm getting to as well, but we also brought all the maintainers that you've heard and you come to love and you star their repos. We brought them to this event in Atlanta to teach open source specifically to this population. And the reason why we did this is because we needed to test out our hackathon. So we went stateside in Atlanta to teach it first, because the opportunity there is that everyone who participated, part of the requirement to get this yellow backpack, so we gave everyone a yellow backpack for the GitHub education program because they're students, but you had to write a blog post about your experience. And the reason why you had to write a blog post is because if a tree falls in the woods, like, will anybody hear? Like, if you ship a contribution, who's going to know about it tomorrow? The best thing you could do is go talk about it, because the best advocate for you is you. So if you did something here in this conference, if you took a picture with somebody you've always looked up to, if you signed up to Alt School using their coupon code, take a picture, write a blog post, because guaranteed there's somebody else in your community that will benefit from that. So we forced every single student to write a blog post so they can get a backpack. It sounds awful, but 500 characters, that's all you tweet all day. You're on WhatsApp all day. Just take that tweet and that WhatsApp, put it into a blog post where everyone can benefit from it. And what was amazing about this is we had individuals who got internships at Apple and Microsoft because of those blog posts, because of that one experience, the one day we did on a Saturday in Atlanta. We also had politicians come through because we wanted to make sure the politicians knew exactly what we were doing. Because we wanted to know if we left Atlanta, this would continue. The one thing I mentioned, Uber exposure, one of our team members was sick, so they had to ship conference material to the place where we were doing the hack day. So instead of getting in the car and driving there, they called an Uber to deliver the stickers. And what was crazy about it is that Uber driver stayed for the hackathon the entire time. And y'all, I learned about pidgin English. Like, there's a lot of languages here, but I'm about to teach you some language right now. So everybody pronounce this word. Mominum. Yo mominum. Say it. Your mominum, which with Urban Dictionary is your mama and them. Yes. And this is a saying in the South we use because everyone was there. When you say your mominum, everyone made it to this hackathon. Basically, it's where everyone your mom knows. How many people, your mom knows a lot of people? Okay, my mom does, so your mominum. All right, what I was saying, we had 75 attendees, we had one Uber driver, we had politicians, we had blog posts that were published during the day, and then we had 75 blog posts after the fact. So we had to go push people to go do blog posts. But the reason for that is because we wanted to make an impact. We wanted to make sure when GitHub leaves this city, it continues. And the whole goal for this entire operation was because we wanted to host one international hackathon. You want to guess where we hosted it? In Nigeria. So back in 2019, we hosted the first open source hack day, specifically with open source maintainers that teach open source in this city, with the partnership with folks that you saw on stage, folks that are organizing this event. And we did it intentionally because that was in 2019, 4 years later. This event is not the reason why this event exists, but the folks that we impacted are also at this event. And we're able to now, GitHub itself has no operation in the country, but we have so many developers that are using GitHub and leveraging it and growing their skills. So I really appreciate being here because I didn't get to attend this event. I'm super honored to be here today in Nigeria. So I say all this because I'm going to go into stuff about open source. Yes, thank you. Because this is not about giving you a job or access. Like, this is about giving you access to those jobs. This is about giving access to that knowledge. And I'm about to go really fast through the rest of these slides to show some knowledge. So here we go. So how do you get an open source? I get this question all the time. I literally had 2 people reach out, stop me as I was sort of getting some sun and ask me, how do I get an open source? What is open source? And I said, come to the talk. I'm going to go over it. So how do you get an open source? So every year they have Hacktoberfest. This one's obvious. You go to events. You participate, you take notes, you write documentation, and maybe if you try and try and try, you will get a contribution involved. And there's some other tricks in that, but I won't go into all the details. Hacktoberfest is this one event. There's tons of events. I love that the Linux Foundation hosts Sustain events. They host all these unconferences for folks to come through. We had one 2 days ago. But the one thing that I noticed is that a lot of people just don't know what project to start with. It's hard to find the first project. Everyone gives you an answer, and they're like, oh, yeah, just look into your packet, your lock file, go to one of those projects, or go to a conference, go find the maintainer, email them, like them, find them on Twitter, take pictures of them, become their personal PR team. But what I wanted to do is I want to make it easier for projects that want to raise their hand and say, I will take on contribution outside of October, outside of Hacktoberfest. We want to create that list, that definitive list. So that's what the open source platform is today. You can find projects, and you can find projects that are opting in to take contributions outside of their organization. And here's like the list of JavaScript projects. So these are all filtered, both the most recent projects, but we also can filter for C#, for Go, for TypeScript, for all different languages and frameworks as well. And we're just getting started. We started this in September of last year. We're almost approaching a year. But we need feedback. We need people to use it, tell us what's missing, so we can help cater open source into your GitHub. I recently spoke with the co-creator of Kubernetes, Brendan Burns, which is like a weird flex, but we started doing a podcast. And I intentionally did this because when I first learned how to code, I created a podcast, and I reached out to all the developers I looked up to, and I said, hey, I have a podcast. Would you like to be interviewed? And all I did was DM them on Twitter, and 90% of all the people I reached out to said yes. Not because I was a big name, not because people knew who I was. No one knew anything about me. Like before, I was Brian. Now I'm B. Dougie. That's my name on the internet. And so reach out to Brendan to ask about how did Kubernetes get started. Kubernetes is huge. A lot of the stuff we use every day, Chick-fil-A, Target, those all use Kubernetes. Just random food stores in the US are using Kubernetes. And the thing that I learned from Brendan in this conversation, which you can find it on the URL, is that if you look at the issues, it shows interest. Like stars is something that everyone looks at and they say, oh, stars, how many stars is it? The thing is, there's a Hacker News post where you can actually buy stars. So it's hard to really show interest based on stars. But if you look at the issues, it shows that people actually care enough to write a question or ask that, is it a broken bug? And a lot of times when we find projects, like we look at the project, it's broken, and we never use it ever again. And I really, really encourage you not to do that. Please, please, please open an issue, because that shows that you're actually interested enough, and someone might even fix that or show you how to fix it. Countless times I make contributions because I opened the issue. PR show adoption. So if you're just looking at these metrics, and this is what we provide inside of open source, interest, adoption, based on issues and PRs. And that's our first step. We're going to do a little bit more stuff in the next couple of weeks, but I encourage you just like and subscribe, follow along. We have a number of different issues with maintainers as well. But moving along, we also do things like the triage team. So Node.js, open source, they all have a triage team, and this is intentionally so for folks who want to label issues, if they open issues, if you want to review a PR, you're added to a triage team where you can be the first person in, first responder to review code. The best part about reviewing code is that you get free mentorship. So raise your hand if you have a mentor. Oh, this is unfortunate. Okay, well, if you do not have a mentor, do open source. Look to the person next to you. Ask them, hey, can I call you tomorrow? That's awkward if you don't know who that person is. But there's an opportunity for mentorship through open source, and that's my background. I don't have time to go through all the details of my story, but we also enforce in our projects linked issues. So if you open a PR, we ask you to open the issue, which is weird if you have the PR, you think, why would I open the issue when it's already opened? It's because historical documentation lives in issues first. Someone solved this problem, you have to tell the story of how we got to this place. So what we do in GitHub is you can do a linked issue. If you're not familiar with this, you do the hashtag issue number, and it links inside the PR. We also have a GitHub action that enforces compliance within our project, so you're more than welcome to use that, our tech and open source. But I just encourage you, you could be helpful in increasing compliance manually as a human being just by being the first person to review. I just want to shout out Sunday. Sunday is actually one of our engineers. He's actually sitting right over there, so I appreciate you, Sunday. I didn't know who Sunday was a year ago, but when I found out, Sunday kept contributing to the project that we were trying to build. Within 1 week, we had 3 PRs from the one person I've never met. So I was compelled to reach out to him and ask him, who are you and why are you contributing to this project? And can you do this for money? Because at the time, we needed to hire an engineer. We had one customer, and we really needed to move faster. And he, oh, okay. Oh, okay, I'm gonna wrap up. Yeah, so anyway, that's Sunday. Check it out. Apparently I've used all the time. So I'll skip through all these things about insights, open source. My slides will be on Twitter as well. What we're trying to do is find out who's contributing within the last 30 days to find out who does high impact for the purpose of reaching out to companies. Let me just wind down. The one thing that I did want to mention is this site right here, goodfirstissues.dev. The mantra of finding a good first issue to make contributions, they don't exist because you haven't opened it. The best good first issue is something that you found and you ask me and I'll show you how to fix it. So we're trying to really build the base layer of everyone to make contributions as well. So sorry, I'm going to go really fast to the last couple slides. There's another Twitter account called First Timers Only. There's an app that specifically will tell you how to write the code. It's already installed inside of repositories, and you can find all those issues on this Twitter account. And then, apologies, just going to go to the last slide. We're now working on an opportunity for you to showcase your skill and have a badge of honor to show your contribution. So if you went through all the work, sign up to open source today, show me your profile. If you tweet and show me, find me over in that corner, I'll give you one of these stickers. So sign up to open source, show me that you signed up to it, and I'll give you one of these cool stickers that shine with the green lights. Apologies, I'm going so far over, but we have so much more that we could talk about in that corner. Thank you so much. I'll leave that.